This is a production of Cornell University.
I am here today to tell you a little bit about some of the programs that we have going on, particularly the educational programs that we do at Botanic Gardens and how they fit this new, what I understand is being called the E3 model, this experiential, engaged, and entrepreneurial student learning that is key for the college's success and for the university's success, and here in the horticulture section for their success. So we're looking at ways that we can assist in that and to do it for students. Yep.
Is the microphone on or is your,
I turned mine on.
maybe we'll
So
turn.
if it's on. Do you want me to use this? or
Yeah,
this one?
well, go ahead. That might help. Just give it, sorry to interrupt. Just go
It's
ahead.
okay. Yes, now it's good. All right. So you can see the screen, you can read it. That's what we're going to talk about. I first want to bring this into alignment and give you some context for at the Botanic Gardens. This is our mission. So everything that we are doing so to inspire people through cultivation, through education and conservation to understand, appreciate, and nurture plants and the cultures they sustain. So we hold everything that we do up against that mission to understand if we're achieving it and how best are we achieving it. And today I want to talk about some of the education efforts that we have that we see as helping to advance that mission. So my goal today is to tell you primarily about our Learning by Leading program, which is a program for undergraduates. I want to talk also about our Public Garden Leadership Masters of Professional Studies program. And I don't think we'll have time to get to the classes that we work on. We either teach directly or that we support faculty in. So I can leave some time for questions. But if I get nervous and start going too fast, we might have time. But happy to talk with you about those opportunities and ways that we can support classes at the gardens. So I'm going to start by talking with you about our Learning by Leading program. The students in this program call it L by L. So if I say L by L, it means learning by leading. They're the same things, but have to get with the vernacular, right? And I see several of them here today. So if you have questions, I might turn to them after the end and you may see yourselves. So thanks for coming today. This is a program that started at the University of California, Davis Arboretum and Public Garden. And they developed it over many years and said, we really see that students are learning best by doing, but by also leading in what they're doing and through having year-long internships. And for as long as I've been at the Botanic Gardens, which is going on 23 years now, I think, we've had an internship program. And it was very, very successful, but it was 10 to 11 weeks long. So just about the time that students they were participants, they were learning, didn't really have a chance to be in a leadership position. And just about the time that we were all getting settled and understanding the mission and understanding the work, summer ends, right? It's very quick here. And all of us, staff, the leadership and the students were all looking for ways to extend that internship throughout the year. So if we had extra funds and we were able to hire them on to continue on a project, we did that, but it was intermittent and not consistent. So when Davis had this model and was talking with us about it, we thought this would be a great way to bring it to Cornell to extend that learning and develop leadership in the students that we were working with throughout the academic year. So, as I mentioned, they saw this as a way for students to learn best by leading and giving them leadership opportunities. The other key part of this is that they were leveraging the power of place. And one of the statistics they shared with us as when we were being trained in this is that people tend to remember two landscapes, the landscapes of their youth and the landscapes of their college years. So here we are at this university, which has a beautiful landscape, both the gardens and the natural areas that the Botanic Garden stewards, but the ones that the grounds takes care of, and all of the ones across the university. So how do we leverage that and make the most of it by helping students to create those spaces and have this power of place and the plants and the landscapes that exist there? What they also noticed at Davis is that through allowing students to be in leadership positions and really pulling back the curtain on the work that they did as a public garden, students were developing what they were calling 21st century skills. They've been called durable skills, Here at Cornell, we call them career readiness competencies, and I'll share a little bit about that in a minute. So in 2018, we finished our strategic plan that we just finished. And one of the things called for us to really engage with students in a much more direct way. So learning by leading was put on the map for us. And one of the other tenets of this program is co-creation, where we invite students to co-create programs and projects with us. And so we embraced that model and we invited a student. She interned with us, started interning with us the summer of 2019, and that's Jeannie Yamazaki. She's the young woman on your right. And so she worked with us throughout 2019 and 2020 to see how the model at Davis would apply here. So there's some similarities, but Davis is a quarterly system, not a two academic system like we are here at Cornell. They have a completely different climate. So they don't experience winter in quite the same way that we do in that down part of the season, and their students work through the summer. So we had to adapt that. And we also wanted to know how students could, how we could tap into some of the systems at Cornell, like career services and campus and student life, to really build on the program that we wanted to create for students. So Jeannie came and did that with us. I received an Engaged Faculty Fellow grant to help launch the program because a lot of the programs are engaged, and we take that very seriously when we are thinking about projects. And then Martin Tang, who has supported many things at Cornell, he's also a supporter of us. He gave us some support to also launch the program. The first of which was our Garden Ambassador program. And they've went into existence in the spring of 2020, when we had a full team of students just in time for COVID. And the other tenet that we adhere to in the program is the growth mindset, which is in every challenge, there's an opportunity. So COVID and going virtual and everybody was online, nobody was on campus. So how do you build a team that's meant to educate the public in a place? How do you do that in a COVID world? And the team fully embraced that, came up with lots of online and in-person programs once we were allowed to start to come back. So some of those key successes that I just mentioned are that students learn best by doing, by leading others, their peers primarily, not always getting it right. So this is part of that growth mindset of that when there is challenges or something goes wrong, how do we learn from that? And how do we do it better the next time? And there's a lot of working together. So this is probably one of the most collaborative programs that we have at the gardens. The students are working with each other within their teams. They're working across teams. They're working with our staff. They work with many different people on campus. And now they're also working out in the community. So there's a lot of working together, and we talk and teach a lot about that. And then this co-creation, where we're inviting students not just to be participants and learners, but to be leaders and to take ownership in the program. So it is a student-focused, professionally guided program. So our aim is to move students through a leadership ladder, which I'll show you in just a moment. And our arboretums and botanic garden staff play a key role in that professional guiding of the program. They take on real world issues. So they are things that we at the garden are struggling with, or that we want to make a difference in, or that is a new area for us. So we invite them into that process, and they work with us to co-create. Some of it is driven by the students themselves, and some of it we say, we want to do this, we want you to take part in this, and here's ways in which you can consider doing that. And the part that started all this is that we really wanted it to be year-round and have opportunities for learning and leading all the way through the full calendar year, not just the academic year. And in an ideal world, for those of you who are in the room, you will come back year after year and continue to learn with us, because as we've seen through some of the participants in this program, the longer you're with us and you have growth opportunities after a year, maybe two, and even beyond. So some of those look like this. So when we had the summer program, what we were noticing is that students were really learning and understanding in that first step of the ladder. That was clear, that was happening. They were participating in the work that we were doing, but it was the work that our staff were leading them in. So with this program, we move them from that learner stage to an active participant really early on in the program. So right now, our teams are recruiting for team members, which I'll explain what those are in just a moment. And right off the bat, they come in and they start participating while at the same time learning about the gardens and the work and the focus area that they do. And then we move them into leadership opportunities. So we have student co-leaders who lead the teams, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a minute. But we see every student as in this program as being a leader and having and providing opportunities to them to lead in the work that they're doing. The step 4 here is leading and mentoring others, and that's typically by students who become our co-leaders and who have a leadership role in leading a team of students. And then the last 2 steps in this are not everybody goes through, but there's opportunities for them. One is by doing signature projects. So we have a lot of students who come in and they are part of the program and they're doing something. They're like, man, I want to do more of this. I'd like to learn more about how to do this. Can I do it as an independent study, or can I come work or volunteer in a different kind of capacity? And we had one student who last year was doing that, and it ended up being her senior thesis, the topic of her senior thesis. So we really create space for that. And then if we're lucky, we have individuals who are doing so well, who see this as a career trajectory. And as we're able financially to support them by paying them or for credit opportunities, they stay on and they become apprentices with us. And some of them do that in their senior year or their last spring. Some of them graduate and we're able to keep them on for a year to do that. So we have some examples of that. So the structure for this is the team structure. And each team, we have 4, and I'll tell you about them in a moment, we have a staff mentor. So for each team, there is a professional staff at the gardens who is that team's mentor. And this is somebody who is professional, who has professional expertise in the area. It is part of their job description, and they have the ability to be a mentor. So this is a key component of the program. Then we have 2 student co-leaders for each team. So we have 4 teams, that means we hire 8 students. And they work with us, they onboard in the spring, and then over the summer, they work for us full-time and they learn about our organization, they learn about the work, they are paid in a full-time capacity, and then they stay on through the academic fall and spring semesters and are paid for about 5 to 10 hours a week. And that varies, but they know they have a job. And those co-leaders are the ones who are out recruiting and then mentoring and leading a team of students who come to us. They either volunteer with us because they want something a little bit different than what they're studying, or they can take it for credit. And I've been fortunate to work with Marvin and Leah to take this from an independent study. We're not quite sure how to give them credit, but we know some of them want to do it, to being able to get the Plant Science 4975, which is undergraduate peer mentoring and leadership development and SIPS credit, which looks a lot better on a transcript than independent study, and then an explanation for that. So we do have a handful of students who take it for credit. Now we have a robust syllabus to guide that for those students who want the credit for it. And we typically get about 10 to 15 students per team. So right now we have about 50 students who are part of this Learning by Leading program across all 4 of our teams. Just want to step back to the staff mentors a little bit. And I mentioned that they're a key part of each team. It is part of their official job responsibilities. So if you look at the official staff position description for these mentors, it is outlined a certain percentage and the responsibilities that they have. We've also budgeted for this. So, a lot of staff will say, hey, can we stand up another team? And I was like, well, it's not quite as easy as that because we have to make sure that we have the finances to support the staff, but also the students that we pay in this. And that's very purposeful in that when we're doing reviews of staff performance, this is part of that performance dialogue process, which they then model and do with the students who they are mentoring. They are professional experts, they have knowledge and they share that. And this is really key. So if we have to hire a new one, somebody's retired or we're standing up a new team, we want that person to have that ability and inclination to mentor students. So all of our students will work with staff across our gardens, but not all of them are mentors. So for the students who come and learn with us and then become leaders of the program, we have them work in their different focus areas. So they're working in our horticulture program, they're working in our conservation program, and in our education program. And so they're learning about the topics and the skills and the knowledge that are necessary to do those various focus areas. But we also spend a lot of time talking about leadership theory and practice, like talking about it, not just demonstrating it or modeling it. We talk about what that means to be a leader, how to carry it out. We do a lot with collaboration. So we do a lot of team building and how best to work in teams. And in the beginning, some of our teams did not work really well together. We tied it back to effective communication. So we spend a lot of time on how we effectively communicate amongst our teams, within the team and across teams, and with any partner that we might have. We give them skills in how to mentor, how to be a peer mentor. So we've been working with the Intergroup Dialogue Project, but also other career services staff who have come and talked with us about what that means. What does it mean to be a mentor? How do you do this? And then decision making, we put them in the driver's seat, and for better or worse. And one of the great things about learning by leading is that we have those staff mentors who've been doing this long enough that they can see 5 steps ahead and they can see where a mistake will be made maybe. And they make a decision. Is this something that the term that we use, is it above the waterline? So if a mistake is made, is it an opportunity to learn, which sometimes you learn more in the making of the mistake than getting it right the first time. And if they see that it's something that's maybe gonna end up with egg on our face or things aren't gonna go so well, they'll step in and have a conversation at that point. I mentioned the career readiness competencies. So this is from the National Association of College and Employers. They call these career readiness competencies, and Cornell's Career Services Program, this is what they use. And they are working with us to develop these within our program. How do we carry these out? How do we model? How do we talk with our students about them? And then we ask our students to reflect on them. So at the beginning of the summer, some of our students who were here over the summer, we asked them, how well do you think you can do these things? And then at the end of the summer, how well do you think you do these things? Where would you like development? How can we help you with those things? So that in addition to having the knowledge of horticulture, being a horticulturist, being an educator, being a conservationist, they also have skills that will help them in these areas. And part of what our mentors do is teach them how to translate the work that they've been doing into these competencies so that they're able to talk about them with employers after they're graduating. We do a lot of training with our students, and we spend some time in the summer doing orientation. We come in the fall once our teams are built and do orientation, that career readiness and strengths and personality styles, how you work in teams. We do a lot of training around that. Both in the summer and throughout the fall, they meet regularly, probably weekly, with their mentors to talk about the projects that they're working on. They carry them out. There's a lot of reflection that we do in the program. It's very purposeful so that students are understanding what they're learning, when they're learning it. And then we're also doing evaluation to know if we're meeting our goals as a garden in this educational program. And we do a lot of celebrations. I will say that it is one of my favorite parts of the program, but it's really key with students to celebrate their accomplishments at the end of each semester. Definitely at the end of the spring semester for the students who are graduating, but it's not just the graduates that we celebrate all of their accomplishments. So it's all one of the fun parts of the program. And our mentors also get training and support in all of these areas that we've been talking about because we want them to continue to have that ability and retain that inclination. And I'm not going to go through them because I am aware of our time. So I just want to tell you about the teams that we have. We have the Horticulture Enterprise Team, Sustainable Landscapes Team, Garden Ambassador Team, and the Youth Education Team. So we'll start with our Horticulture Enterprise Team. This team is focused on planning and hosting plant sales as an opportunity to earn revenue and to provide learning and leadership experiences. And Missy Bidwell, who is our greenhouse manager, is the mentor for this program. And some of the skills that we've identified that they will learn as a result of going through this program, certainly plant identification, crop scheduling, especially as they relate to targeted plant sales that we're looking to have, recognizing greenhouse operating systems, heating, cooling, lighting, irrigation, and what happens when those things don't work. How do you remedy them? All kinds of plant propagation techniques, and also plant health care. The other key part of this, other than just those horticultural skills, is the enterprise piece of this, which is how do you figure out how to sell these plants? What do you sell them for? How many do you need? When do you need to buy them in order to grow them in the greenhouse for a sale at a certain time? And then how can we help you develop those retail skills to be able to sell them or upsell them or get people to buy more? And what do you have to do in a retail environment to make that successful? So just to tell you about one example of these efforts this past summer, not the one that we just finished, but the prior one, the team decided they wanted to do a spring Mother's Day plant sale. So they started talking about it in the summer and had to research places that they could buy bulbs and the kinds of bulbs they wanted to buy, figure out how to schedule them, how to cool them. This is my thank you to you, Bill, because you provide a greenhouse cooling space for them to grow it and to know how long to keep it there, and taught them about stratification and what that means and how to do it. And so they did it. This is them getting all the bulbs in and getting them ready for going into cold storage. This is the product, some of the products that came out. And the other benefit to having these ready for the Mother's Day plant sale, which did extremely well, is they learned that Brent and Becky's has a fundraising program, which is the supplier that they used. So if we set this out on our email listserv, said, if you buy from Brent and Becky's bulbs, be sure to tag Cornell Botanic Gardens and we'll get a portion of the proceeds that comes back to us. So it's a very successful endeavor. They also work with our community, Finger Lakes Native Plant Society, to host a spring plant sale. The Native Plant Society and the Sustainable Landscapes team are putting out all of the native plants that they have and putting together information cards about them. Students also propagate a lot of plants, divide a lot from our collections, and have those for sale. So this is a big spring plant sale, often happening either right at the end of the spring semester or the early part of the summer season. And then in addition to many other programs that they're working on, one of the things that they're doing regularly is managing a collection of plants in our greenhouse that can go out for sale in our gift shop, and monitoring these plants regularly, having a variety to sell, coming in and making sure that they're watered, that they look good. If something doesn't look good, taking it back to the greenhouse, bringing something else in. We sold out of most of these last week, so they were there a couple of times, bringing in new plants. And this has been a great part of, especially at the beginning of the school year. So the next team I want to tell you about is our Sustainable Landscape team. And this team has as its goal to strengthen the native plant community in our on-campus natural areas, primarily through the Mundy Wildflower Garden. And they're practicing and learning about sustainable landscaping techniques. And this team is mentored by our natural area horticulturist, Audrey Bowe. And some of the learning objectives we have for this team is plant identification of native and invasive plants, process of collecting and testing the viability of seeds from our native collections, learning how to propagate them and replant them out in various areas where we're trying to reseed populations, understanding what a sustainable landscaping technique is, where we can do that, and how a lot of our areas are how we address issues around environmental degradation, climate change, pest and disease control, loss of habitat. What role do we have in addressing those things, and how can native and sustainable landscaping practices play a part in that? So here they are after a seed collecting activity. And one of the projects that they've taken on and has grown, this is the Aguego House on North Campus. It is the residence hall for the American Indian and Indigenous Studies program. And they approached us after we developed another garden on campus in front of Cornell Health to ask if we could help them build a healing garden at Aguego for their residents. So our students, and this has been over a couple of years, there's been a few years of interaction with them, but the first year was really understanding what they wanted. So we did design charrettes with them to understand what their goal for the garden was, what the space was, what plants were meaningful to them, whether they were from this region or from other parts of the country or outside that would grow here and help represent what a healing garden meant to them. And there were lots of back and forths. So they went away from this session and created a plant list based on what would grow there. They developed 2 designs they took back to the residents there and shared it with them, and they selected one. And then that team worked with the residents to literally co-create that garden. So it was a collaborative planting between the students in our program and the Sustainable Landscape team and the residents and staff at Aguego and in the ACE program. If you fast forward to this year, they reached out to us and said, we love the garden, it's looking great, but can you teach us how to maintain it? And what things are weeds and what things do we need to trim back and how do we do this? So this year's team worked on developing a maintenance plan and then went and worked with them this fall to trim it back and teach them how to do some of that, which isn't to say we're going to step away. So part of our engaged model with this is to continually check in to see what is needed from that engaged opportunity. This program went on to inspire one of our, I just want to point him out. So this student here, Charlie Hernandez, was the student co-leader for the Sustainable Landscapes team. And he said, this is really great. I want to do this with the Onondaga School up near Syracuse. And how do I write a grant to make this happen? So he worked with our development staff and they applied for a grant through the Einhorn Center. He was successful in getting that. And so they went to the Onondaga School, did the same kind of design charrette planning and iterations with the community there. And last spring planted this garden. And this summer, the co-leaders of that team worked with them to develop a similar maintenance plan and taught them, again, what needs trimming, how do you do this, what's a weed, what's not. And there was co-learning there because what they called a weed, one of the community members said, no, we don't view that as a weed. So that was a really nice way to have some co-creation and knowledge sharing. So our third team, which was the very first team that we developed, was the Garden Ambassadors. And this is a team dedicated to outreach, engagement, and non-formal, informal education. And they primarily work with students on campus and visitors to the Botanic Gardens. And this team is mentored by our Student and Public Engagement Coordinator, Kara Pete. And the learning objectives we have for this team is they learn how to plan educational programs. What is an educational goal, objective? What kinds of activities are appropriate for various audiences? How do you do this in an informal setting? And what does an interactive activity, how can you do that in a really interactive and meaningful way that somebody walks away with learning about what you want them to learn about? So a couple of the programs that they do every year, they are invited by the Big Red Barn to come every Valentine's Day to do a program all about chocolate. We call it Chocolatada, and students walk them through all the stages of production, from harvesting a cacao pod all the way to what it ends up in when you buy it from the store, and everything in between. It's very interactive, and students often take a particular aspect of this program and build on it. So one year they looked at the social justice implications of chocolate production. Last year they looked at the sustainability of some of the chocolate production and share those with audience members. This past year and in the years prior, they've done a lot of work with other campus groups. So I think it was last year they worked with Dillman Hill and Annabelle's Grocery to address food insecurity issues among students on campus and ways that we could combat that. This year they worked with the Cornell Minds Matter program to develop mindfulness programs and to talk about how their groups could work towards improving student well-being on campus. And every year we have a Spring into the Gardens in the spring, where we invite the community to come to your public garden. It's here in the Northeast, it's ready and you're welcome to come, and we do all kinds of interactivities. And this past year, they worked to get a special guest there, and this was a huge success for our local community members that joined us. And then they also in the fall do a program called Wreaths and Winter Greens, where they host a tour of the winter garden and plants that are special to winter, that do their thing in the winter or have special cultural connections to the winter season or holiday season. And then they partner with the Horticulture Enterprise team, who goes out and is looking for ways that they can get inexpensive winter greens that can be turned into wreaths. So that often looks like getting trimmings from Christmas tree farms and then having to trim them down so that they can be made into wreaths. So this is a great enterprise opportunity that these two teams have come together to offer every year, and these two have been very successful. And then our final team is our youth education team, and they work on outreach, engagement, and informal education with our youth K through 12 audiences, primarily here locally. And the team is mentored by our youth education coordinator, Lauren Saltzman. And the students work, the goals that we have for them is they are learning how to conceive, develop, implement, and refine activities that support youth programs and that are age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. So one of the things that they spend a lot of time on is, what is this age group? What are they able to learn, and how are they able to learn? And how is a kindergarten class very different than a third grade class, different from a middle school class? So they're learning about those different developmental stages and how they can develop age-appropriate activities. They do a lot of outreach. So we do bring them to the gardens, but we also participate in things like Insectapalooza, where they're teaching about the relationship between insects and plants. And here they have a matching activity and then a seed saving, build your own seed, take seeds and take them home and plant them and give them the information about that. We do a lot of engaged work in our community with the Ithaca Children's Garden, where they're able to go and test out ideas or to learn from the educators there. They go to the Science Center and bring activities as part of the community days there. And this past summer, they worked with the Rural Youth Services Program to bring a group of middle school students, and our co-leaders had to design a 4-day program for these students to learn about nature through art and science. And so here they are, one of their days they spent testing water quality in our Fall Creek Natural Area. And they too get in on the enterprise game and offer a yearly program called Gifts from Nature, where they spend the fall semester collecting a lot of plant material that can be then turned into some type of gift craft that kids can make and create and take home. So I mentioned celebrations are important, so I would be remiss if I didn't share a few of the recognitions that this program has received. One of which is that last year, the Student Sustainability Program gave the whole of our Learning by Leading, so all of our teams, the Ripple Effect Award for their work and the ways that their efforts have had a positive ripple effect in teaching about and enacting sustainability efforts across campus. So this group of students, and there were others, but they were really excited to go and to receive this award and be recognized for a lot of the efforts that they're doing. We were also invited to participate at the Public Gardens Association conference to talk about our efforts in bringing Learning by Leading to Cornell. There are several other programs out there, as you can see. There's probably 10 university gardens that have Learning by Leading programs now. So we went and we talked about our program and how we have adapted it. And then while we were there, the whole Learning by Leading program won the APGA's Program Excellence Award. So we were really thrilled to be there. And this young woman on my left in the picture is Jakara Zellner, and she is one of the students who went all the way up the ladder. So she was a co-leader with us for 2 years and then stayed on and did a signature project. It was so successful that we hired her to work with us for almost a year after graduation to carry on her work. So in the few minutes that I have left, I just want to mention, I'm going to totally switch gears and tell you a little bit about how we carry over that engaged, experiential, and a little bit in the entrepreneurial category with our Masters of Professional Studies in Public Garden Leadership program. So this is a program that Don Rakehouse started in 2000. I joined the gardens in 2002, and then started co-directing and co-advising the program with him. And since then, we've graduated 45 students. I'm happy to say that about 76% of them have stayed on and become public garden leaders at a public garden or a very closely allied field. So looking forward to working with I see 4 of our new students here, 3 of our new students, 1 in absentia, and working with us. And many of them come to us with experience working in public gardens and are looking to build on their leadership skills, especially in things like nonprofit finance and management, leadership theory and practice. What was the class you were all at this morning? Managing and leading organizations. So we put a lot of emphasis there, as well as focusing on the plant sciences and the areas that they're interested in furthering that work. And with the capstone project, we have 2 requirements. One is that it advances their knowledge and skill, but it also benefits the public garden community. So it has to be an issue or an area that has some applicability after graduation. And the experiential part of this is we have a functioning, working public garden right down the hill from us, and we want to give them opportunities to work with our staff experts there to learn from them. And I see I want to give a little bit of time for questions. So I was going to share with you some of the examples of the research and projects that our students have done over the last couple of years that have taken the form of things like toolkits that they develop for other public gardens, or a very hands-on approach of looking at winter displays, especially for Northeast gardens where everything starts to go dormant and we don't have as much interesting things to look at. So how can they develop displays, especially in sustainable ways? Looking at non-invasive ways of approximating the age of historic trees, which was really important to Jenna, who's here on the right. We had youth engagement was looked at by Siobhan Gordon-Buxbaum in how she was really interested in how public gardens without spaces, dedicated spaces to children, like a children's garden or even play spaces, how they could engage with youth without those spaces, and had a really great set of recommendations. And you all probably came or saw the last 2 graduates that just graduated, with William Sinea, who's the CEO of the Cornell Botanic Garden in Haiti, who wants to develop a flora of Haiti. There hasn't been one done since the 1920s. So his capstone was to figure out what is missing and what's needed in order for him to develop that. So that's what he has gone back to do. And then Maya Singnatse worked with us on our our native lawn project. And part of what we try to do in that program is not just the capstone project and not just the courses that they're taking and not just working with the staff at our garden, but introducing them and getting them engaged with botanic garden staff around the world, primarily in North America. So we do that by taking trips. Sometimes just nearby, we go down to Philadelphia. If the picture on the top left was from Seattle, and when the Public Gardens Association meeting was out there. And then the picture on the bottom left was with a whole bunch of powerhouse directors of botanic gardens at a meeting, and we were able to get our students engaged with them to learn about what they do and what they think that you all should focus on if you're going into public gardens. So I'll end with just saying that this is one of my favorite parts of my job, and part of the foothold I have here in horticulture that I appreciate being able to do is to work with these graduate students. And it's a very quick program, this 1 year. When I started, it was a 2-year program, to see it condense into 1 year and how to cram a bunch of really important learning into that year is very rewarding. What's even more rewarding is when I get to go out and see students after they've graduated. So the picture on the right, the woman in the green shirt, this is Allie Scare, who's now the curator of horticulture for the Denver Zoo, and does amazing work and applies her horticulture knowledge in very interesting ways, some of which are like public gardens and some of which are very, very different. And so I invited her to give a guest lecture in the public garden management class, and some of the reflections after that class was, wow, I didn't even know this was a career opportunity. So they were super excited to learn about it and be connected with Allie. So I'm going to end there. I'll just put a plug in to say that in addition to the courses that myself and other staff teach at the gardens, we really like partnering with all of you, especially in horticulture, to make your classes come to life or to provide experiential learning in ways that you might not be able to. So we're always looking for ways that we can do that and would welcome the opportunity to talk with you if that's of interest and desire. So I'll stop now so that there's an opportunity for questions. And I'll just say, very last thing is we have new strategic goals, part of which is to be a resource for all of you. So thank you very much. So any questions? Yes.
Tony, can you give us an idea of by the way, such a fabulous program, and I love seeing so many of our plant science, ag science students in all your pictures. Can you give us an idea of like the timeline progression from like first time you might interact with one of the students to when they obtain some of the leadership roles that are happening over the course of a summer, or is it like really committed students that are doing it over several years?
You would think that going back to that leadership letter, that it might take a long time, but we try to get them engaged right out of the gate. So even if they join as a team member, so they're not in that official co-leader role. I'll use the chocolate program as an example. So every student takes a piece of that program, and there's probably 10 stations. So if there's 10 students, every student gets a station. And they have to both learn about the station, and then they have to train other students in how to do it. And if they're making changes or they're bringing in new content, then they have leadership and opportunities to figure out what that station needs, if there's something new, to train those students. So even this fall, if they join our team this fall and they take on that project, we try to move them right into having some level of leadership in mentoring and teaching others and leading others in that role. So we try not to have it be where they have to wait a whole year. Sometimes that happens, but we always try to recruit from within when we're looking for those co-leaders. So students who have been team members who are getting to know it. A lot of them could be leaders, but they either choose not to because they have other responsibilities that they're obligated to. But when we do, it's really great because then they understand the system and can move right into it. To move further up to like those apprenticeships and signature projects, it's usually after a year. They've been working with us for about a year. So the question here is did you train your staff to be excellent educators in these active and experiential teaching approaches? It's a great question. And so partly they already had some ability that we recognized through when we had our internship programs or the work that they were doing with the students already, but then we provide them training. So we either do that internally with myself and Lauren Saltzman, who is the coordinator for this program, and our other educators talk a lot about what is goal setting, what is a goal, what is an objective, how do you measure that, how do you know, how do you write it, and then how do you develop that into a program. Some of it we bring in external experts, whether they're from Cornell or we participate in the Public Gardens Association seminars that are available, or we're always scouring for new opportunities. So, and it's something we talk about. So I mentioned that we as mentors, actually I breezed over this, but with the mentors, we meet regularly every 2 weeks throughout the whole year. And in those mentor meetings, we're talking about the things that are going really well and that we're having success in, and maybe you want to try this too. But we're also talking about where there's issues and how do we problem solve and how might we deal with something. And where is it that we need opportunities to learn more about how to do this. So one of the great things that UC Davis is now doing is they've created a community of practice. And so they're trying to put together a regular session where other university garden professionals who are carrying out this program, we can come together to talk about all the things, how to learn how to do this, how to address issues, where they've had success. And we have a few students in the room. So Zoe and Kale have been or are current co-leaders of our program. So if you have any questions for them, not to put you on the spot, they were awesome and are doing really well and have had great successes. So it's nice to see you here. Well, thank you all for being here today, especially this first day of class. I wish you all great teaching and learning, and come see us at the garden. And if you know students who would benefit from this program, please send them my way. The application is on Handshake. So students, if they're becoming a team member, have to go through Handshake. The job descriptions are there. In the spring, we'll be looking for co-leaders. That's a work day because it's a job, and so it has to go through a totally different system. And you all get to experience that alongside us. So thank you very much.
This has been a production of Cornell University, on the web at cornell.edu.